It's so powerful, man. Just, you know, the art and the idea of, you know, what music is.
When you look at all of these great world leaders, or all of these, you know, great, you know, scientists or everybody else, and they all talk about how, you know, in school I was in the band, or I was in the choir, or I played guitar on the weekends with my, you know, friends and family, or whatever it might have been. That musical element is something, it's a great sense of pride to them, but it also, you know, surely there's a reason why it seems to be a universal amongst all of them in some capacity.
I did take a high school guitar class, but that was just for like a year, if I remember correctly, until they cut the class because either there wasn't enough funding for the guitar class itself, and they wanted to focus on orchestra, or there wasn't just as many kids signing up for the class.
Music education is in danger in Arizona. 50% of schools surveyed gave a budget of $0 to arts education. 75% of those that did allocate money spent less than $1 per student per year. Although arts education is on the decline, there are rays of hope in the people who choose to go against the odds and ensure that the arts, music in particular, stay in schools. Joel Hernandez is a third-year Mesa Community College student studying music education.
After high school, I had a full-ride scholarship to ASU, and I was doing the architecture program. And about a year and a half in, I realized I wasn't happy doing it. And then I just thought to myself, if I'm gonna do something for the rest of my life, pretty much, I should do something that I enjoy.
Of the classes he took before transferring to MCC, music therapy and music recording inspired him to pursue a career in teaching music. To continue his education outside of the classroom, he joined a band with other academics. Yaitzo is made up of Hernandez, his brother John, singer Charlie Buck, engineer Omar Sandoval, and information technology specialist Wilbert Bedoni, who all credit music as a way for them to focus and relieve stress.
You know, being in the field of IT, it gets stressful at times. You know, you're dealing with customers on a day-to-day basis, and you know, it's a good feeling knowing that you can just come home and play music. Even when I'm not jamming with my band or we're not practicing, you know, I'm always, you know, sitting down playing the guitar, just getting the fingers exercise, and just looking forward to our next jam sessions and whatnot. So yeah.
But the benefits of music don't stop there. It can also be a tool in helping people with concentration and productivity.
I notice that when I'm listening to music, or when I'm singing along to music, I tend to concentrate more. So I'll always be listening to classical music or just ambience kind of music. And then when it's really time to put it into gear and turn out some work, I pump up the heavy metal.
I would not have made all the new friends I've made. I wouldn't have been able to travel to Colorado and play music for a lot of people out there. And time goes by faster and I'm having a whole lot of fun.
The U.S. Department of Education's College Preparation Guide lists the arts as an important component in the learning process. In Getting Ready for College Early, it says, many colleges view participation in the arts and music as a valuable experience that broadens students' understanding of the world around them. It is also well known and widely recognized that the arts contribute significantly to children's intellectual development.
So like cutting something as broad as music classes is wrong, because music kind of embodies more than just quote unquote music. It has parts of all the general courses in the public schools. So it has history, it has mathematics, music, reading music, it's kind of like a foreign language. So you got that, you know, you have so many things that expand the mind and work out the mind that I really see no good reason to cut these classes.
Dr. Len Young of the HARP Foundation understands the connection of music and intellectual development through the work she does with the foundation.
What they've seen is, in a group of, for the last 4 or 5 years, in a school in Bogota, Colombia, they have implemented the Tomatis method in kindergarten, first and second grade. And those children have consistently improved their learning abilities and their production. They've been high achievers. So that program is just ongoing, so they know that that's very effective.
The Tomatis method, in its simplest form, is used to retrain the inner ear, which helps in learning and retaining information.
It works thanks to a device that causes musical contrasts by suddenly and unpredictably changing the timbre and intensity of the music. This effect will surprise the brain and trigger its attentional mechanisms. We say that the brain puts itself in the listening position. Sound is transmitted through air via the ear canal. It is also transmitted by vibration at the top of the headset. This vibration is called bone conduction. Bone conduction transmits the sound directly to the inner ear, thus preparing it to receive the sound transmitted through the eardrum. The switch to channel 2 causes the muscles of the ear to tense. Conversely, the switch back to channel 1 lets these muscles relax. Thus, the muscles of the ear are subjected to a gymnastic exercise. In this way, the stirrup muscle tenses and relaxes thanks to the Tomatis effect, improving the regulation of the inner ear and playing a role of preparation. More generally, it is the entire auditory system that is stimulated by the sudden change of timbre and intensity. The vestibule and the cochlea have a fundamental role of providing energy to the brain. In the cochlea, high-frequency sounds stimulate the brain much more than low-frequency sounds. Channel 2 will strongly activate the lower part of the cochlear duct and thus favor the reception of high frequencies and their transmission to the brain. This transmission takes place through the transformation of the acoustic vibration that is perceived into electrical stimulation. The electrical message is transmitted to the auditory cortex and the peripheral cortical areas that are directly connected to the prefrontal cortex. The latter integrates and analyzes the information received. In return, this integrated information is directed back to the ear, favoring not only the perception of the acoustic information and the ability to focus on it, but also the improvement of motor programs concerning fine and gross motor functions. Thus, through this back and forth between the brain and the receptors in the inner ear, we can see that in reality, the ear is a sensory motor organ that plays a decisive role in our personal development.
We know that 60 beats to the minute, which is slower than most music beats, is where we hear more easily and we learn more easily. So if we have music at 60 beats to the minute, that rhythm actually slows our body down to a place where we can take in information much more easily and we process it better. So it does affect us. So actually, harp music and classical music can retrain the ear system so that the brain functions, the vestibular and cochlear nerve function more readily, and the way it was created to function. So that means that there is a very direct relationship of music to the brain.
The Harp Foundation has also found scientific evidence behind music's stress-reducing effects.
Our chest, the ribs of our body, of our chest, are like a harp. And inside of that harp structure is the whole circulatory system, the whole respiratory system. All of it is encased in this harp-like structure. And we understand that at some deep soul level, we understand how important the harp is, including the fact that the heart itself has strands within the very structure of the heart that are like the strings of a harp.
The organization was founded by Joyce Buchers, a third-generation harp player. She began working with Hospice of the Valley, playing for the sick, and eventually formed the Harp Consortium. The consortium turned into the Harp Foundation in 2005, and since then, the group has mainly focused on performing in hospices and schools. Now, the foundation provides harp music to anyone being treated in a participating hospital.
Actually, the harp has been shown, there's some evidence-based research that shows that harp music and live therapeutic harp music actually reduces pain and anxiety. So our purpose has been to do that in hospitals, to help patients heal faster so they don't have to stay in the hospital as long. And we have harpists who play in 5 different hospitals in the Valley right now, with 2 other potential ones coming online this year.
With all this evidence behind the importance of music, why won't Arizona schools make it a priority? Because not enough funding is being provided to help these programs stay in schools. But some educators say that reinvention, not elimination, is the answer. Richard Maxwell of Phoenix's Arcadia High School found that in his program, Contemporary Music and Sound, or CMAS.
You know, you look at it on the surface and it seems like ridiculously expensive. And the irony is that it's actually cheaper. When I was running my band and orchestra, and this isn't a slam against band and orchestra, it's just a reality, it's massively more expensive for me to run that program. This program I can do on a fraction of the budget and and have a program that's 4 times as big.
Let's take a look at the figures. A saxophone, mouthpiece, and a set of reeds costs $1,094.79. Add maintenance costs like the occasional repairs and cleanings, and that's $260. You'll need supplies like an electric tuner and a binder for sheet music, which comes out to $38. Now add the costs of a uniform, shoes, and concert season clothes, and that adds another $450 to your budget. The total cost for one student per school year will come to about $1,842.79. This cost will vary depending on the instrument and does not include festival or travel fees. Let's take a look at Arcadia's CMAS program. A computer will cost about $1,500. The recording software Pro Tools costs $300 for the educational version. That comes to $1,800. A decent recording microphone, its cables, and other supplies will run for about $170. An electric guitar starter kit with an amplifier, a bass guitar kit, and a percussion controller will cost $600. A MIDI keyboard controller will go for about $300. For CMAS, the total price of the program comes to $2,870 per workstation. These stations can be used by up to 20 students per school year. Other benefits to this program? The investment does not have to be made every year, and the cost can be reduced by $1,200 per workstation if the school already has computers for students to use. Divide the cost of each workstation by 20, and you get $143.50 per student. When you look at the figures, CMAS costs less than 10% of what a traditional marching band program would cost per student per year. The financial savings are not the only benefit to CMAS. Student Cameron Lizick enjoys the different educational perspective.
In elementary school, we had music classes that focused mostly on singing and performances. And in middle school, I was in a choir, but this is the first time I've ever done anything like this that focuses on writing music and on performing music live. And this is the first time I've ever learned about behind the scenes and how it all comes together and how the instruments are actually set up technically, rather than just from an audience point of view.
Student Stormy Bucky enjoys the think outside the box perspective of the program.
This program is really an eye-opener, and Mr. Maxwell himself is so nice, and he's really trying to get the best out of us. It's not, here are the things you need to do them. It's, can you try to do these things? And if you can do the things, it's, okay, well, what can you do with them, you know, and how can you go through like all these processes of music, like music theory and stuff, and what can you do to change someone's perspective? And it's really cool. I like the program.
If I wasn't in this program, I guess I wouldn't have access to all these different, to these studios and all these resources, and it would just be harder for me to progress as a musician because I wouldn't have, you know, places to perform. I wouldn't know all these different musicians who have, you know, common interests of music.
Teaching assistant Brian Wheelahan finds that as an educator, a program geared toward a new way of thinking about music could spark more student interest in modern music education.
They're learning about things that they want to learn about, and they're not necessarily required to have this performance element of classical music that they may or may not be interested in. So I think there's a place for that in schools around the valley. There's a lot of schools that are interested in doing something new, something different that'll attract a different student body.
But Maxwell believes that the musical element of the program is only one aspect of learning that students take away from it.
I think there's a very sustainable argument to be made that they're actually learning some pretty important life skills. The computer literacy alone is critical for them to be able to function in today's society, but this idea of, you know, being able to work in a multi-complex, you know, step process with many people and to legitimately learn how to collaborate, how to share ideas, how to take your ideas and make them better on the, you know, input of other people and all those other things. You know, that to me is really what this is about. It just happens to be being executed in a musical context.
But no matter how much enthusiasm these educators and students have for music programs, funding is the ultimate problem. Arizona Governor Jan Brewer released her budget plan for 2015 at the beginning of January 2014. Although $40 million would be awarded to schools, it is only awarded to those schools that demonstrate improvement in individual student test scores. Scottsdale Unified School District also released its budget plan in April of 2014 that would cut art, music, and PE by half in an effort to save $1.5 million in a $4 million budget gap.
It's kind of sad to watch a lot of the programs I love go in some of my friends' schools, and some family members taught some like performing arts. I know my uncle taught band, and he had to get laid off because they were taking out all the fine arts in that school. So it was really sad, but I have faith that we'll get back on track and start getting stuff up and running, because to me, and I'm sure it's not only to me, the fine arts is not only just can you perform, it really does give you a skill that you wouldn't get in just primary education.
I'm hugely disappointed by it because I think this is something that's important, and it gives students who are interested in pursuing music just a diving board to like spring off of into a future and a career of music. So having that education now is so important, and cutting that is unfortunate.
An early update to the 2010 report found that although music class offerings in schools have gone up over the last few years, there were still 415 students without music education in 2013.
Music programs being cut in public schools, it takes away from the talents of so many kids that really have no other outlet. They might not be the best in sports, or they might not be as social, but music is a way that they can express themselves, you know, in a safe manner that they're not hurting anybody, and it keeps them busy and keeps them away from bad things. But I think that it shouldn't be cut, and if anything, it should be fueled with more interest from the community as well as the schools.
You know, in education, we want to give children a chance to be a whole person and to be well-rounded and be able to deal with many parts of life. And if we only focus on the academics and reading, writing, and arithmetic without giving them this other opportunity to help themselves in different ways, then we take some of the creativity away from learning. And Carl Jung, the psychologist, the great psychologist who was working with depth psychology, said that we are the freest in our imaginations. And if children come to school plagued by too many difficulties and struggles, then they can't reach their imagination. So in school, there's an environment and an opportunity for us to give them that by also having these tools. And I think it would be short-sighted to take those away.
So what will future generations see when they look back on our generation? Will they see a positive world full of healthy and educated people? Will they see a thriving community rich in music and art?
You know, I remember when I was in, I think, middle school, a science teacher making a comment, and of course I latch onto these kinds of things even then, even though I didn't realize why. And he said, you know, when we study ancient cultures, the only thing we're really left with is their art. That's really pretty much how we learn everything about ancient cultures. Their art, you know, maybe their music, maybe their philosophy. I mean, you know, and to me, I think we missed the point. I think that we should be touting the benefits of arts education and music education as it relates to scores and as it relates to testing and everything else, but I think in and of itself it matters.
Or will they see a world that's fueled by money and greed? A world where your test score is worth more than your talents?
I think there's a flaw in the argument of music education for the benefit of test scores, for example. We use that a lot to justify our jobs, and we use that a lot to justify the existence of these programs. And it's not that I don't think that that's true, and it's not that I don't think that's important. It's just that I think it discounts what I think is the real truth, which is that music education, and I'll even go so far as to say arts education, because to be perfectly frank, arts in general are getting clobbered all the time. Arts in general, for their own sake, are really important for kids.
The hope is that when we look back on this generation, we know that we were given the best chance to succeed. But for now, it's just a hope.
I do think there's a hope, and I think basically if people are more aware of what's going on, and if people are more vocal about their beliefs that these are valuable classes that we want to keep, I think there's definitely a chance for these classes to stay and to even grow.
If I could say something to any kids watching, I would like to say never give up on what you love. If you really love it, there is so much more than that you could be than just a star. You know, you don't just have to be a star to be in the music world. You could, you know, there's like sound engineers, pyrotechnic people, like the whole backstage of it. Just because you're not the star doesn't mean you're gonna be. You doesn't mean you can't be in the music world. So just keep trying and try to live the dream.
Support music education before it's too late.
went to public school?
Yes, I did.
And do you know how the program of that school, has it continued or has it been cut? Do you know?
I have no idea. I haven't been to elementary school in a long time, thank goodness.